You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar holds bilateral talks with his Philippine counterpart in Manila, discusses maritime safety and Indian Navy deployment, says focus on building connectivity and people-to-people contacts. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu cancels high-level Israeli delegation's planned visit to Washington after US abstains from UN resolution calling for Gaza ceasefire. Hush money case continues to haunt Donald Trump. A New York judge sets April 15th as the trial date. Odds that Trump will face at least one verdict before facing voters increase. New Zealand joins US and UK in accusing China of cyber espionage. New Zealand says its parliamentarian entities in 2021 were a victim. Russian president says radical Islamists carried out concert attack, suggests Kyiv may have played a role. Ukraine denies any involvement. Death toll from the attack rises to 139. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has officially cancelled an Israeli delegation's visit to the White House this week. In a post on social media platform X, the Prime Minister's office said the decision was made in light of the change in the US position. The US decision to abstain on the vote on the Security Council resolution on ceasefire in Gaza prompted Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu to cancel a scheduled trip to the US by two of his top advisors. The US abstention on Monday's vote allowed the latest resolution on Gaza to pass when the other 14 members of the 15-member strong council voted yes. The non-binding resolution put forward by the 10 non-permanent members of the Security Council demands an immediate ceasefire for the month of Ramadan, the immediate and unconditional release of hostages, and the urgent need to expand the flow of aid into Gaza. It also does not condemn the 7th October Hamas terror raids in Israel. The White House said that it was very disappointed by the decision of Israeli Prime Minister. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said that Biden administration is kind of perplexed by Netanyahu's decision to cancel a planned Israeli delegation's visit to Washington to discuss alternatives to an attack of the southern Gaza city of Rafah after the US abstained on a UN ceasefire resolution. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said that Netanyahu's statement was a bit surprising and unfortunate.
There were issues issues with which we had concerns related to that resolution. The fact that it did not condemn Hamas's terrorist attacks of October 7th. That's why we didn't vote for it. But the reason we didn't veto it is because there were also things in that resolution that were consistent with our long-term position. Most importantly, that there should be a ceasefire and that there should be a release of hostages, which is what we understood also to be the government of Israel's position. So it is a bit surprising and unfortunate that they're not going to apparently attend these meetings.
Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said that Israel could not end the conflict with Hamas while there are still hostages in Gaza. The Israeli Defense Minister is on a visit to US where he is expected to meet his counterpart Lloyd Austin, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and other senior US officials.
We have no moral right to stop the war while there are still hostages held in Gaza. The lack of a decisive victory in Gaza may bring us closer to a war in the north. We will operate against Hamas everywhere, including in places where we have not been yet. We will identify an alternative to Hamas so that the IDF may complete its mission.
A veteran Israeli minister who joined Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's emergency unity government after Hamas's October 7th attack resigned on Monday. Gideon Zar, who joined the unity government along with several other members of the opposition to help manage the conflict, says he was not being included in the highest level war cabinet. Zar, his departure along with another of his allies is not expected to affect the stability of Netanyahu's government, which still controls a clear majority in parliament. Donald Trump's criminal hush money case is set to go on trial on 15th of April. The former president's legal team wanted the trial dropped or substantially delayed after federal investigators released a batch of documents they deemed relevant to the case. But in a win for Trump, his bond in a separate civil case has been substantially reduced. William Denslow gets us details from New York.
Donald Trump and his legal team headed to court here in Lower Manhattan on Monday, hoping that the criminal case he faces tied to allegations that he paid hush money to a porn star in the lead up to the 2016 presidential election would be dismissed, or at least the trial would be substantially delayed. March 25th was originally the date planned for that trial to begin. However, recently, a little earlier this month, the judge delayed it by 30 days. This came after a huge tranche of court documents were released by federal investigators. Now, Donald Trump's team said that the handling and the late release of these documents were grounds for the case to be dismissed. The judge didn't see things that way. Instead, he decided to keep his ruling as it was after his initial revision, which means that April 15th will be the first of Donald Trump's 4 criminal cases that he faces to go to trial. Donald Trump has denied wrongdoing in those counts, pleading not guilty to all 34 felonies that he faces in that regard. However, he was granted somewhat of a win on Monday. Recently, Donald Trump was ordered to pay around $450 million after he was found liable for fraud. However, an appeals court here in New York has ruled that instead of having to pay that amount, he now has to pay just a $175 million bond while his appeal continues. Donald Trump has 10 days to make that payment. He says he will do. He has railed against these cases here in New York, as well as the various other civil and criminal cases that he faces. He says that it's election interference, and he says it's essentially a product of the justice system becoming weaponized to hurt his re-election campaign. William Denslow in New York reporting for DD India.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is on a 3-day visit to Philippines as part of his Southeast Asia tour. During the visit, the minister met his Filipino counterpart, Enrique Manalo. Addressing media in Manila, the minister pointed out the maritime issue. He also stated that both India and Philippines are committed to maritime security.
We are both important maritime nations. We're not only important maritime nations, I think as the Secretary pointed out, we are at, two ends, in a manner of speaking, of the Indo-Pacific. Not exactly ends, but let's say Philippines is in the middle, we are at one end. It's also a fact that we are two nations who make a very exceptional commitment to global shipping. So every country has an interest in maritime security, in maritime safety. Probably it is more than many other countries normally would have.
The Sri Lankan government has secured a $100 million loan in a deal signed with the Asian Development Bank. The agreement aims to provide vital financial assistance to revive the island's small and medium-sized enterprises sector, which constitutes over 75% of all of its businesses. Sri Lanka's SMEs have been grappling with the aftermath of the COVID pandemic and economic downturn. Sri Lanka plans to allocate $50 million from the loan towards an SME line of credit scheme, streamlining access to finance for struggling enterprises. High Commission of India in Sri Lanka, in partnership with the Sri Lankan Ministry of Technology, organized a conference on digital public infrastructure in Colombo. The conference aims to explore the transformative potential of DPI for enabling service delivery, empowering communities by fostering inclusivity, and enriching the economy by driving innovation. Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe delivered the keynote address during the opening plenary session of the conference. Ranil Wickremesinghe spoke about his country's plan to strengthen digital infrastructure. He also thanked the Indian government for assistance and help.
I must also thank the Indian government for enabling us to have a campus of the Chennai IIT. In addition to it, the government is also planning to start 3 universities, of which 2 will have emphasis on technology and 1 will be a university of technology. So that is the background we have, together with the other institutions that will be started at different levels. So in implementing it, we needed help. And the best place we could get was India. So I spoke with Prime Minister Modi when I was there last year. And as a part of our integration, we said, we'd like to go with India. You have done so much. And another reason I took India is the country that discovered zero.
The conference focuses on how DPI simplifies governance and improves accessibility for the citizens. The Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, spoke about India's Aadhaar system, saying it facilitates the financial inclusion of the underprivileged of the society.
Probably, even the architects of Aadhaar didn't envisage that India was on a path to finding a world-beating solution for building out and regulating the online commons that is more equitable than the laissez-faire approach, more transparent and more innovative than some of the regulation-heavy models. Today, Aadhaar covers more than 1.3 billion of our people. We have used the power of the JAM Trinity, Jan Dhan bank accounts, Aadhaar and mobile, to revolutionize financial inclusion in India.
US and British officials on Monday filed charges, imposed sanctions and accused Beijing of a sweeping cyber espionage campaign. Deputy Prime Minister Oliver Dowden on Monday accused Chinese hackers of trying to break into email accounts of British lawmakers who were critical of China and said a separate Chinese entity was behind a hack of its electoral watchdog that compromised millions of people's data. In response to the attempted hack in 2021, Britain imposed sanctions on 2 people and 1 company linked to state-backed Chinese hacking group APT31. Britain also said an unidentified Chinese state-affiliated hacking group was behind a separate 2021-22 cyber attack on Britain's Electoral Commission.
I can confirm today that Chinese state-affiliated actors were responsible for 2 malicious cyber campaigns targeting both our democratic institutions and parliamentarians. First, the compromise of the United Kingdom Electoral Commission between 2021 and 2022, which was announced last summer. And second, attempted reconnaissance activity against UK parliamentary accounts in a separate campaign in 2021.
The New Zealand government says that it had raised concerns with the Chinese government about its involvement in a state-sponsored cyber attack on New Zealand's parliament in 2021, which was uncovered by the country's intelligence services. New Zealand's Foreign Minister Winston Peters said in a statement that foreign interference of this nature is unacceptable and we have urged China to refrain from such activity in future. The revelations that information was accessed through malicious cyber activity targeting New Zealand's parliamentarian entities comes as Britain and the US accused China of a wide-sweeping cyber espionage campaign. Russian President Vladimir Putin acknowledged on Monday that last week's deadly attack at a concert outside Moscow was carried out by radical Islamists. He, however, suggested that the shooting fits in a wider campaign of intimidation by Ukraine.
It is absolutely clear that the terrible crime committed on March 22 in the capital of Russia, this is an act of intimidation, as I already said. And immediately a question arises, who benefits from this? This atrocity may be just a link in a whole series of attempts by those who have been at war with our country since 2014 by the hands of the neo-Nazis Kiev regime. And the Nazis, as is well known, have never hesitated to use the dirtiest and most inhuman means to achieve their goals.
4 men of Tajik origin were remanded in custody on terrorism charges at Moscow's Basmany District Court on suspicion of carrying out the attack, the deadliest attack inside Russia for 2 decades. 3 others, also of Tajik origin, were remanded in custody on the suspicion of complicity. Islamic State has said it was responsible for the attack, the death toll in which has risen to 139, with 182 people wounded. The shooting took place when 4 men burst into the Crocus City Hall on Friday night, spraying bullets during a concert by the Soviet-era rock group Picnic. France has said that it will increase the number of soldiers for its Operation Sentinel unit, which deals with handling terrorist threats. France's Prime Minister Gabriel Attal on Monday said an extra 4,000 members of the military would be put on standby for the Sentinel Division, which guards sites such as railway stations, places of worship, schools and theatres across the country. Earlier on Monday, President Emmanuel Macron said that the gunmen who killed 139 people in Moscow terror attack were part of an Islamic State branch that was behind foiled attempts to attack France over the past few months. Up next, we're heading for a short break. You're watching DD India Live, but after the break, amid the poll fever, we tell you ahead the unstinting contribution of Indian women in shaping the nation's political landscape. Boeing Chief Executive and Chairman David Calhoun to step down. And we show you a tiger's majestic jump to cross a river at India's Sundarban.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
We just don't.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live, and up next we get you the latest on what's happening in India in the run-up to the world's largest democratic election. India, holding the title of the world's largest democracy, is about to embark on its next general elections. This time, the spotlight is on the influential contribution of Indian women in shaping the nation's political landscape. Let's take a look.
As India, the world's largest democracy, gears up for the upcoming general elections, the spotlight shines on the powerful participation of Indian women in shaping the nation's political landscape. From the beginning of the Constitution, Indian women have been granted the right to vote, which is the cornerstone of democracy. However, the actual turnout of women voters has often been lower than that of men. Various factors, including socio-economic issues, may have led to this situation. But now, the tide seems to be turning. The gender gap in voter turnout has significantly reduced in recent years, with 65.63% of women exercising their right to vote in the 2014 parliamentary elections, demonstrating the growing political involvement of Indian women. In 16 out of 29 states, more women turned out to vote than men, highlighting their substantial influence in shaping the nation's political landscape. In the 2019 Lok Sabha election, which was a historic moment in the country's post-independence era, 77 women were elected as members of Lok Sabha. Additionally, there are over 1.45 million or 46% women elected representatives in Panchayati Raj institutions, surpassing the mandatory representation of 33%. The 73rd and 74th Amendments 1992 to the Constitution of India have reserved 1/3 seats in the panchayat and municipalities for women. India is presently one of the only 15 countries in the world with a woman head of state. Globally, India has the largest absolute number of elected women representatives in local governments. Also, for the first time, women voters outnumbered men in the southern Indian state of Tamil Nadu. Similarly, the participation of women in Indian politics is on the rise. On 19 September 2023, India's Prime Minister introduced the historic Nari Shakti Vandan Abhiniyam Women's Reservation Bill, which seeks to provide a 33% quota for women in Lok Sabha and state assemblies. It can only come into effect after a delimitation based on a census conducted after the bill has been passed, with the next delimitation scheduled for 2026. As India prepares for another historic election, the women of this diverse and vibrant nation are set to make their voices heard, once again proving that they are an integral part of the democratic fabric of India. Sujata Lochab, DD India.
As election campaign for the 2024 general election keeps picking up momentum, controversies have also started to galore. Congress's senior leader Supriya Shrinathe made derogatory comments against actor and now BJP candidate from Himachal Pradesh's Mandi, Kangana Ranaut, which has created a huge political backlash for the Congress party. The BJP has hit out at Congress, terming that Srinathe's Instagram post brings out the mindset of the Congress and what they think about women. Several senior leaders of the BJP have condemned the derogatory comments made at Kangana Ranaut. However, Congress is on back foot and is trying to salvage the damage done. They're trying to blame a parody account of the Congress leader. Janata Dal Secular Party in Karnataka is all set to release its list of candidates contesting the Lok Sabha elections from the state. The JDS is likely to hold a core committee meeting at State President H.D. Kumaraswamy's residence in Bengaluru. The regional party is contesting the election in alliance with the BJP in Karnataka. The Saffron Party has declared nominees for 20 seats, and according to the sources, it is expected to announce the names for the remaining 5 seats in a day or two. Polling for Lok Sabha elections will be held in Karnataka in 2 phases, that is on 26th of April and 7th of May. The Bharatiya Janata Party has released 5 lists of candidates for the upcoming Lok Sabha elections so far. The Saffron Party has fielded some new and prominent faces in the upcoming polls. As of now, names of 399 candidates have been announced. On the other hand, the Aam Aadmi Party is expected to hold a massive protest in Delhi against the arrest of its convener and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. Delhi Traffic Police has put in place traffic restrictions and diversions, any violations of which will result in strict legal action, including towing of the vehicles. Getting your business updates now. Boeing's board has begun the search for a big hitter to take the helm of the troubled plane maker, following the turbulent nature of CEO Dave Colon, with many industry executives and analysts predicting that it will seek an outside remedy. Facing mounting pressure from airlines, regulators and investors, Boeing on Monday announced a broader than expected shake-up, with Colon stepping down by year-end on the heels of company's commercial plane-making chief and its chairman. The US plane maker has been wrestling with a growing crisis following a January mid-air panel blowout on a 737 MAX plane. In sports, Chennai Super Kings are all set to take on Gujarat Titans in their next battle of IPL today in Chennai. Both teams have already played once this season and have won their respective games. Chennai beat Royal Challengers Bengaluru by 6 wickets, while Gujarat Titans got the better of Mumbai Indians by 6 runs. Chennai are currently ranked 2nd on the points table, while Gujarat are currently ranked 4th. Both teams last played against each other in the final of the IPL 2023. Chennai Super Kings were crowned champions after they defeated Gujarat Titans by 5 wickets. But in the 5 matches played between these two teams, Gujarat Titans have better record as they have won 3 games and have lost 2. Spotting tigers is already rare and thrilling, but witnessing the big cat jump into the air is an even more extraordinary experience. A video of a tiger taking a giant leap to cross a river at Sundarbans National Park, West Bengal, is winning hearts on the internet. That's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.